Dumb ways to die in the Grand Canyon.
Welcome to the Grand Canyon Posse, folks. And this here video is all about
dumb ways to die in the Grand Canyon.
And take heed of these stories, because I reckon I don't want to open up a newspaper one day and read all about
the dumb way you died.
Now I'm going to toss it on over to my partner Steven over here. Steven, that's your cue.
Thanks, man. Hey, everybody. I'm Steven. That's the Canyon Cowboy. He's fictional. I'm real. And I got a list of 12 ways people have died in the Grand Canyon here in a not-so-smart way, so let's dive into it, shall we? Selfies. Yes, people have died taking selfies at the Grand Canyon, and from what I can tell, there have been 2 confirmed cases of people dying taking selfies. Both happened in 2023, and both individuals just happened to be from Hong Kong. And from what I could tell, both individuals had no connection to one another, didn't even know one another, just purely coincidence. Though there have been the 2 confirmed cases, the national parks say that one of the most dangerous activities to be done at the Grand Canyon is photography, and people walking up too close to the edge of the rim and having too much focus on their camera and not paying enough attention to where they're stepping or what they're doing and slipping and falling. In fact, here's a quick video I found online of a young woman who almost falls. So close. Retrieving replaceable things. And what I mean by this is that the wind blows off your hat, or you drop something that close to the rim, or maybe even it falls over the rim, you go to retrieve it and you slip and then you fall.
Can you imagine that?
I know, right? I read of one instance of a man dropping his lens cap and in an attempt to go retrieve it, slipped and fell and died. Look, replaceable things are replaceable. Your life is not replaceable. Pretending to fall. It was very easy for me to do a quick search on YouTube and find plenty of videos of people pretending to fall over the rim. Look, I get it. It's a nice trick to play because at a distance it looks like it's the edge of the rim, but then you walk up to the rim, you look over, and there's another ledge there just a couple of feet below or a few feet below. But unfortunately, in 1992, there was a 38-year-old man from Texas who was visiting the Grand Canyon with his young daughter, pretended to fall in order to play a little trick on her, and then upon him landing, he actually fell for real again off that lower ledge and fell to his death. Jumping off the rim on purpose. And what I mean by this is jumping off the edge of the rim on purpose without it being a suicide.
Jumping off the rim with the notion you'll survive? It's downright loco.
Yeah, it's totally crazy. And one of the ways people do this is rock hopping. Now, look at these idiots on this video here jumping off that rock. Clearly, they're just doing this to show off to their friends, maybe get that epic photo, but it's so easy to trip over your own feet, hit some loose gravel, slip and fall, lose your balance, and that's it. Here's another instance, I think that's on the same rock formation, where someone had climbed across. They were too nervous to climb back across and actually needed search and rescue to come and rescue them. Here's another instance of someone hopping a safety barrier to show off to the crowds to maybe get an epic photo. According to the comments on this video, people are saying this guy was inebriated. Here's another angle of that same guy. Well, this guy lost his balance and fell, and here's some footage of his body rolling up to another ledge. Luckily for him, search and rescue was able to get to him and save him. Apparently he survived with some serious injuries, but had he fallen off that other ledge, it's more than certain he would have died. Another way people jump at the Grand Canyon is cliff jumping into water. Hey, look, I'm guilty of doing this stuff myself. When I see people doing it, I see them survive, it makes me want to do it myself. Some stories I found online is a couple of people jumping from a height of nearly 200 feet into the Colorado River and dying. A 19-year-old in Havasupai losing his life jumping into the water, or a story of a 23-year-old who jumped from a height in Havasupai of only 30 feet, which really isn't that high when you think about jumping into water, but there's just a number of things that could go wrong. And base jumping has actually killed 3 people at Grand Canyon. Most recently, this summer in August, a 20-year-old man illegally base jumped from the South Rim near Mather Point, and his parachute got caught on the cliff edge and he died. And there was another report of 2 people jumping simultaneously from the rim, deploying their parachutes, and their parachutes getting caught up with one another, and then plummeting to their deaths. Next up, hiking without a plan. There's a famous saying at Grand Canyon in that going down is optional, coming back up is mandatory. And looking at the canyon from the rim often deceives people in thinking that they can hike down to the river or hike down quite a ways and come back up without really preparing for it. So far this year, there have been 4 deaths from hikers hiking within Grand Canyon, and without knowing the specifics of these different incidences, I can almost guarantee that all 4 deaths could have been prevented had they just planned a little better. Now, the things that get people in trouble is, 1, you hike down first, you hike up after. It's not like hiking a mountain where you hike up first and you hike down after. People will often hike down into the canyon until they get a little bit tired, and then they turn around and want to come back out, not really considering that the hike out is going to be way more difficult, and often find themselves unable to complete the hike and needing to be rescued. Another thing that's very deceiving about the canyon is that temperatures near the river and temperatures at the rim can sometimes be up to 30 degrees difference. So like, consider if it's a warm summer day on the south rim of Grand Canyon and let's say it's 90 degrees, you could expect it to be close to 115, 120 degrees sometimes down by the river. And if you're hiking that in the middle of the day, again, large portions of the canyon have no shade. So you could find yourself in 115 degree temperatures with no way of getting out. You might be running low on water, or the water itself is getting warm, so you're unable to cool yourself down, and you experience hypothermia, which means your body is overheating and can't cool itself down, and that's when people start experiencing heat exhaustion, even heat stroke, and die. Moving on, hydration. So especially if you're coming from a part of the world that's a little more humid or tropical, you're gonna need more water than you probably think when visiting Grand Canyon. The Arizona air is very dry. The elevation of the north and south rims is high. We're talking 7,000, 8,000 feet elevation, so the sun is more intense. The climate there is just a perfect scenario to sap water out of your body. So bring more water than you'll think you'll need. And you'd be surprised how many people attempt to hike Inner Canyon and either don't bring enough water or don't bring any water at all. But another way hydration gets people in trouble is that they'll actually drink way too much water without also ingesting food and or electrolytes with it, especially in the warmer months inside the Grand Canyon, and you're going to be sweating a lot. You sweat out a lot of your electrolytes. You sweat out salts and sodium and magnesium and those things that your body needs in order to function properly. If you're constantly drinking water, yeah, you'll have enough moisture in your body to function, but if you lose too much of your electrolytes, your body will shut down and you'll find yourself becoming very lethargic and unable to continue on your hike. Now we're going to talk about wildlife. Now, of course, there's all kinds of wildlife inside Grand Canyon National Park, but there are 3 animals I want to talk about specifically for this video, and that's elk, black bear, and bison.
Bison ought to scare the bejesus out of you.
Yes, they should. First up, let's talk about elk. Now, elk are only found in the South Rim. You're not going to find them up at the North Rim. But of the hundreds of times I've been to Grand Canyon National Park, the South Rim, I don't know if I can think of a single time I didn't see elk. You almost are guaranteed to get some elk sightings. And the elk at the South Rim, they're pretty docile. They're pretty used to tourists. I don't think I found a single incident of elk attacking people within Grand Canyon National Park, but I've found plenty of footage online of people being attacked by elk being aggressive towards their cars. And then just recently in Arizona, within the last couple of years, we had our first death from attack from an elk. So it can happen, super rare, but one thing to keep in mind is, especially in the spring and in the fall, they tend to be more aggressive in the spring and the fall. So in the spring, the males tend to be more aggressive because that's their mating season, and in the fall, the females can be a little aggressive because they will have just recently given birth to some calves, and they have their young around. Now, the next animal I want to talk about is black bear. Though I've never personally seen black bear in the park, there have been sightings, and I have, in my days working as a journalist back in the day, reported on bear attacks in northern Arizona. People have gotten killed being attacked by bears, but there is also a saying that the most dangerous bear that you could ever encounter is actually a cub, so a baby bear, and that's because female bears are extremely protective of their cubs. If you ever see a cub, get the heck out of there. Lastly, I want to talk about bison. Bison will only be found at the North Rim. You won't see them at the South Rim. Again, you want to keep your distance from them. Again, I have never seen an instance of a person being attacked by bison in Grand Canyon, but it has happened in other national parks, specifically Yellowstone. Bison can be aggressive. Do not approach them. I would even suggest if you're in your car and you see a bison to not even get out of your car, just roll down your window and take your photos that way. But if you do get out of your car, just stay close to the vehicle and far enough away from the bison that if they were to get aggressive and charge you, you have more than enough time to get in your car and shut the door. Other animals you could come in contact with at Grand Canyon and could pose a threat to humans would be coyotes, especially at night. Javelina, which are extremely aggressive, so if you see javelina at all, just stay clear, and mountain lion. So I know this video must make it seem like the Grand Canyon is extremely dangerous, and okay, don't get me wrong, it is, but as long as you're applying some common sense, if you come out here, you're gonna be perfectly fine.
To Arizona, Grand Canyon bound. Before you see that big hole in the ground, go to my website, I must insist, or you might be a stupid tourist. Grand Canyon Posse.com, Grand Canyon Posse.com, Grand Canyon Posse.com. Come join the posse. Go there if you want discounts real deep, 'cause you're resourceful, some may say cheap. Just join the posse.
Why, you may ask?
So your trip will kick major ass. Grand Canyon Posse.com, Grand Canyon Posse.com, Grand Canyon Posse.com. Come join the posse.
All right, I'm gonna toss it on back to Steven again. Steven, that's your cue.
Okay, let's move on to the next dumb way to die, shall we? Driving too fast at night. Now, the main danger you have to look out for in northern Arizona while driving at night is the elk and the deer, where during the day, they pretty much aren't making themselves known. They kind of hunker down during the day somewhere and aren't out and about. But as soon as the sun drops, they're moving about because that's when the predators come out and are hunting them. So at nighttime, they're very active. So if you're going faster than the speed limit, coming around a corner, you may not have time to slow down or stop if you see elk or deer in the road, and you'll hit them, and people do die hitting elk and deer on our roads. Another reason why driving at night can be extremely dangerous, more so than driving in the day, is in the wintertime. Typically, temperatures in northern Arizona aren't below freezing during the day when the sun is out. The snow is kind of melting during the day, the roads can be a little bit wet, but at night when the sun drops down, because of our elevation, the air temperatures from the daytime to night can be really drastic, as much as like 30, 40 degrees sometimes. During the day you're driving a stretch of road, it might be a little bit wet. That same stretch of road at night though, if it was wet at all, it's likely to have frozen over, and you could find yourself, if you're going too fast, lose control of your vehicle and get yourself in an accident. Chasing after your pet. So this is a story that happened not in Grand Canyon, but it was in the Grand Canyon region that I reported on when I was working in the news. But it was a woman that had pulled off during a snowstorm, and apparently her dog got out of her car and ran off into the woods. So she chased off after it and wasn't able to find it, and then also got lost and disoriented and wasn't able to find her way back to her car, and then died of hypothermia. Somebody found the car, the door was open, and there was nobody there, and they had noticed that it was been sitting there a while with just the door open, so they called search and rescue. Search and rescue came out. They found her body. She had died of hypothermia, and later on, the dog actually came back. Rafting the Colorado River without experience.
I reckon that river is a force to be reckoned with. Sure as shooting.
Sure is. And in fact, the Colorado River through Grand Canyon, the rapids there are some of the most dangerous in the entire country. In fact, they have its own rating system for those rapids specifically than compared to rivers anywhere else in the country. This year alone, there have been 7 deaths on the river from people rafting it. Some of them were experienced rafters who had been waiting a long time to have the opportunity to raft it, only to lose their lives. One of those deaths was a man who hopped on the river without a permit on a makeshift raft, which looks like just a plank of wood, and went out there with his dog, and the 2 of them were not seen alive again. I almost feel sadder for the dog than I feel for the guy, because the guy was being extremely dumb. But even with that, rafting the Colorado River, even for the most experienced rafters, is a very, very, very dangerous thing. Hiking slot canyons in monsoon season. When you think Arizona, I'm sure you're thinking dry, desert, saguaro cactus, but the reality is from June 15th to October 15th every year is technically our monsoon season, and we can go weeks on end with seeing rain every single day. Monsoon storms tend to come in bursts and extremely hard torrential downpours, and with that you have the potential for flash floods. Flash floods do kill people in the region from time to time, including just this past summer. You may have saw it in the news. Havasupai had a major flash flood. Hundreds of people got stranded and needed to be helicoptered out. A young married couple got washed away. The husband survived. The young woman did not. She got washed away in Havasu Creek, and they found her off the Colorado River, something like 20-30 miles away from where Havasu Creek met the Colorado River. And probably the biggest tragedy that happened due to flash floods of a slot canyon happened in 1997. 12 people were hiking Antelope Canyon. They got surprised by a flash flood, and 11 of them died. Again, just don't hike in those areas unless you are hiking somewhere where you know you could get out if a flash flood were to occur. Or go with an experienced guide who is checking all the safety protocols for you and knows for a fact whether or not it's safe or not to go. Or go into a canyon like Antelope Canyon today that is heavily managed, and they have people constantly keep an eye on the weather, and they will not let people in the canyon if there's at risk at all of a flash flood. So during monsoon season, you could be hiking a slot canyon without a single cloud in the sky above you, yet 20-30 miles away there's a storm dumping rain, creating a flash flood that's rushing towards you, and you have no idea until it's there and you can't get out.
Talk about being trapped.
Right, so that's why it's so important that if you're wanting to hike any canyons in monsoon season, that you do so in areas that allow you the opportunity to get out of the way if a flood were to occur. So I guess that pretty much does it for
well, hold them horses. You're forgetting about them aerial collisions.
Right. Okay. So I guess if there's a theme to be had from all of these dumb ways to die in the Grand Canyon, it's that you need to be aware of your surroundings. And never was this more evident than in 2 aerial collisions that have happened in Grand Canyon. One between a helicopter and a small airplane. Both were tours taking tourists of air tours of the Grand Canyon. But back then, this was in 1986, they didn't have very regulated airspace then, and the airplane and the helicopter crashed into each other and fell to the ground, killing all 23 aboard both of those aircraft. But that pales in comparison of the collision that happened in 1956. There was 2 commercial airlines both taking off from the same airport in California, and in fact, it was said that passengers of these 2 aircraft passed each other on the tarmac as they were walking to their airplanes to board. Both planes were heading over Grand Canyon, and both pilots had decided to, while flying over the canyon, to give their passengers a better look at the canyon below. But tragically, both of these pilots had the same idea around the same time, and they collided into each other over the canyon that fell, killing all people aboard both planes. And in fact, this collision made such headlines all over the country that it actually was the catalyst to establish the FAA in the United States, where today those kinds of collisions just don't happen anymore because all flights are managed by air traffic controllers, and the entire FAA federal system knows where all planes are at all times so that they never are flying in the same airspace at the same time. All right, with that, I guess we're going to wrap Oh shoot, that's right. This music is reminding me that I need to tell you guys about the musical. Okay. The whole reason I'm making this channel is because one day I want to make a musical comedy show for the stage to entertain all you folks coming out here to see the Grand Canyon. And with that, I'm going to toss it on over to the Canyon Cowboy here.
Here's a quick update of how the show's coming along as we wait for that lazy bum to write the script and write the songs, hone in the story, make it fun and not boring to entertain y'all with the Grand Canyon musical. Woo!
Okay. So I guess this is my first update on the show. Right now I'm just trying to narrow in what the story is actually going to be. And what I'm kind of thinking of is that the main characters are going to be tourists. I'm picturing from the East Coast. I'm kind of thinking they're a middle-aged couple, kind of struggling with their relationship, and they have a teenage daughter, and they had this trip that they have planned for a really long time. So they're coming out here, they're going to stop at a Harvey Hotel, they're going to eventually make it up to Grand
We're going to have
Canyon.
to wrap it up here quick, partner.
Right, and then I think the story is really going to be about this couple reconnecting, and then perhaps the teenage daughter also meets somebody while she's out here. And
I'm stopping you right there, Steven. This video's come to an end. These folks have to get back to their lives. If you're coming out to Grand Canyon, consume my content start to end. So until our paths cross again, I'll see you on down the trail, my friend.